Hello, New Orleans. Didn't expect we have a video this fast, but the Fifth Circuit came back with a decision on Hignell. For those of you who have forgotten, that was the other ongoing Airbnb case, the short-term rental case. That was brought by a bunch of plaintiffs that goes all the way back to them originally challenging the 2019 original council ordinance on Airbnbs, STRs. So the decision came back, and it's interesting. So we're going to go through kind of some really short question and answer of what this new decision means for short-term rental regulation. So some of the questions that were asked in that case. Does the city have the authority under state law to regulate short-term rentals? That ruling is in favor of the city, in favor of the law this council passed. It is well settled the city has the authority to initiate legislation and enforce zoning ordinances for short-term rentals. That is a big win for us and reaffirms what happened in district court. Another question. Do the city's STR regulations violate the due process clause? Ruling in favor of the city, in favor of the ordinance your council passed. There is no fundamental right to engage in short-term rentals, and short-term rental use is a commercial, not residential usage. That's important because, as you know, there has been this ongoing, really dumb-ass argument by Airbnb that there is some fundamental right to short-term rental. Now, the reason why that argument is so ridiculously dumb is that would also create an environment where if everyone has a right to do whatever they want on their property, that means that the house next to the school can suddenly sell alcohol. The person next door to you can open a live entertainment venue. That argument would have undermined all zoning that we ever had in any city. It was really dumb. Court didn't buy it. Another question. Do the regulations violate the Equal Protection Clause by prohibiting businesses from holding STR permits? This was not a win for us. It ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. Prohibition on ownership of NSTR properties by business entities violates the Equal Protection Clause because there is no legal justification for distinguishing between the two. That is kind of a loss, but not really. All it means is that you can have LLCs that own STR permits or can apply for STR permits. Now, that is actually consistent with ongoing federal law that businesses are people. Now, I don't agree with it. You don't agree with it, but it's consistent with the law. So that requirement going forward that you have to be a natural person to apply for an STR permit or hold an STR permit, that will no longer be an issue. You can own an STR permit or apply for one as a business. Another question. Do the city's STR advertising regulations violate the First Amendment? This is an interesting one. Ruling partly in favor of the plaintiffs, partly in favor of the city. The requirement that each advertisement only pertain to one dwelling unit is found to be a violation of the First Amendment because the city does not adequately articulate its rationale. All other advertising requirements, including that you must include the permit number, ADA accessibility, bedroom and guest counts, and not advertise over the legal limits for these things was upheld. Basically, it's kind of like a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory. We can't tell them that they can't mass list properties, but the key issue, the issue that Airbnb does not like, is that you can be required to advertise the permit number. And further, this strengthens our previous ruling from district court on platform accountability. Platform accountability, that requirement that Airbnb or other short-term rental platforms have to verify permit activation for active permits before they list a property is still the law of the land, and that is what has led to the dramatic reduction in illegal Airbnb. So it's a partial win, but it's mostly a win for us. The last question for today. Does the city's operator residency requirement violate the Dormant Commerce Clause? The ruling was in favor of the city. Requiring the residential lease and other proof of residency for operators would violate the Dormant Commerce Clause to the extent the city's law requires only that the operator reside on premise during guest days, it's upheld. What that means is we put into our ordinance there be a requirement that someone be on premises for rentals. All this says is we can still require that someone be on premises during a rental. We cannot require that someone live in the property when it's not being rented, which seems like splitting hairs, but it still requires that someone who is leasing or using or having an STR has to be on the premises during the rental, so that when you complain that that bachelor and bachelorette party are drunk and vomiting over the fence, someone has to be on premises to make them hold their hair on their side of the fence, not in your yard. So what does this mean? What this means at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is that for the most part, on everything that mattered, we won yet again. And what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is the second time that Airbnb has come to the intersection and found out. What this also means is that, barring anything completely insane, for the most part, our regulations that have significantly reduced the amount of short-term rentals in the city, that have created a framework to put the onus on the platforms to not completely continually relist properties, it's all been upheld. And much like the last time when we dealt with them, we came out ahead, and your rights to not have neighborhoods dominated by short-term rentals, the smell of victory is so incredibly sweet. And the agony of the defeat of these corporate lawyers who continue to come to New Orleans to try and tell us how to run neighborhoods, they just keep losing. One final thought. When it comes to defending our city, defending our neighborhoods, doing the right thing, weathering the stupid and negative attacks from these third-party groups that are operating dark money packs paid for by Airbnb, I'm here for it. I can do this all day. New Orleans, have a great weekend.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there.